Household energy use functions less like a single decision and more like a continuous background process. It is embedded in the physical environment of the home: lighting circuits, refrigeration, climate control, connectivity equipment, charging habits, standby power, and scheduled appliances. Much of it operates through default states rather than active intention. Some devices run continuously, others cycle automatically. Others remain available in a ready mode because the household routine expects immediate response. Because this consumption is distributed across rooms and time blocks, it rarely presents itself as one clear task. It accumulates through many small, ordinary actions that are individually minor and collectively persistent. The conditions that produce this accumulation are stable. Modern housing is built around electrical availability, and daily routines are organized around powered tools. In practice, energy use becomes an ambient layer of operation that continues regardless of attention. The friction comes from the gap between how continuous the process is and how episodic human attention tends to be. Energy systems run every hour. Awareness typically appears in short bursts. The household still functions when awareness is absent, and that absence is common because most of the process is not visible while it is occurring. The result is an ongoing operational condition, a home that consumes power continuously, while the ability to track, manage, or interpret that consumption is intermittent. Most engagement with this condition takes the form of deliberate oversight. One approach is behavioral control, reducing usage through repeated decisions such as modifying thermostat settings, limiting device runtime, changing lighting habits, or manually shutting down equipment. This method relies on sustained attention and consistent follow-through across many small choices. Another approach is administrative monitoring. Households check monthly statements, review usage graphs when available, compare billing periods, or attempt to connect changes in routine with changes in cost. This introduces a measurement layer, but it typically remains periodic, tied to the arrival of a bill or the availability of data. A third approach is equipment substitution. Devices are replaced with alternatives assumed to draw less power, or high-use appliances are deferred, scheduled, or consolidated. This often involves research, purchasing decisions, and later relearning routines around new equipment. There are also attempts based on technical engagement. Some households add meters, smart plugs, home dashboards, or automation rules. These systems require setup, calibration, and ongoing adjustments. They also introduce a second layer of interaction: the need to manage the tools used to manage energy. Each attempt represents a rational way to engage with a continuous background process, using finite attention, time, and decision bandwidth. None of them is inherently incorrect. They simply require repeated interaction in order to stay aligned with a moving, distributed pattern of household use. Effort-heavy approaches tend to degrade because the system they are applied to does not pause. The household routine continues to generate energy demand in parallel with everything else: work schedules, sleep cycles, seasonal changes, guests, equipment aging, and shifting daily needs. Management effort is forced to compete with the rest of life's maintenance tasks. Over time, the mismatch becomes structural. The process is continuous and distributed. Human oversight is periodic and centralized. Even when a monitoring routine is established, it is often anchored to fixed checkpoints, weekly reviews, monthly statements, occasional audits, while the underlying system changes at smaller intervals. Small deviations compound quietly because they do not appear as single events. They appear as drift. Scale also matters. A home is not a single device. It is a network of devices, each with its own usage pattern and default behavior. A method that works for one appliance may not translate cleanly across the full set. As the number of powered elements increases, the cost of sustained oversight grows, and the household tends to fall back on general rules rather than precise tracking. General rules reduce the burden of decision-making, but they also reduce resolution. The outcome is not collapse. It is a stable state of partial management. In this way, the limitation is not that engagement is impossible. The limitation is that continuous conditions produce continuous friction when the method of engagement requires recurring attention. The system can be managed, but the management itself becomes another ongoing background process, one that competes for time, discipline, and cognitive space. Alongside attention-driven approaches, a different category exists: response formats designed around reduced interaction. These formats do not depend on continuous monitoring or repeated behavioral correction as their primary mode of presence within a routine. They are characterized by being set up once or referenced occasionally, while remaining structurally available in the background. This category includes instructional formats, reference formats, and system-oriented formats that are intended to be used as stable materials rather than ongoing programs. Their defining feature is not performance or results, but their interaction profile. They are designed to be accessed in discrete moments and then left alone, instead of requiring daily inputs to remain relevant. They sit inside a routine as a persistent option, rather than an active process. In practical terms, these formats often appear as manuals, schematics, checklists, plans, or fixed media packages. They are present as objects or files that can be revisited when needed, rather than tools that demand continuous attention. They are not universal. Replacements for effort-based methods, they represent an alternative way of organizing engagement around continuity, not through continuous action, but through continuous availability. One example within this low-interaction format category is the Obot's Energy Revolution system, distributed as a digital product that typically includes written materials such as a manual, diagrams, and a parts list, delivered through online access. Its usage context is commonly framed around being read at a chosen time, stored as a reference, and revisited as needed, rather than requiring daily interaction as part of normal household scheduling. Reduced interaction formats do not fit every situation, and they do not align with every household's preferences, constraints, or tolerance for technical involvement. Some environments favor active monitoring, repeated behavioral adjustments, or structured administrative routines. Others may prefer reference-based materials that remain available without becoming a daily task. The differences are often less about motivation and more about how a routine can realistically accommodate ongoing attention over long periods, within the broader reality of energy use as a continuous household background process. These categories simply represent different ways of organizing engagement: attention-driven methods that rely on repeated decisions, and low-interaction formats that exist as persistent materials within reach. Neither category removes the underlying condition that energy demand continues in the background. They differ mainly in how interaction is paced and where the ongoing workload tends to sit.